morning. Sometimes we meet in circumstances we wish we met in a different way. But I want to welcome you this morning to a celebration of life. My name is Robert Hendricks. I'm the pastor here at Pleasant Prairie. I'm going to start us off with a word of prayer. Would you stand with me as we start? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, we come before you, Lord. We thank you so much that you are a God that we can come to in our darkest needs, Lord. We can come to you with problems big or small, with hurts big or small, with trials and troubles, Lord, and you listen, and you care, and you hear, and you comfort. Lord, as we celebrate this life, I ask for a special presence of your Spirit to offer comfort to the family, to the friends. Bless us today. May we receive what we need to receive during this time. In Jesus' name, amen. You may be seated. I was thinking, I was reading from the scriptures the other day, real quick, and I came across a story where Jesus was in the boat with his disciples and they were sailing across the sea, and Jesus took a nap. And the storm came. And they were scared. They didn't know what to do. And Jesus, they woke him up and he said to the waves and to the winds, he said, "Peace, be still." And they became calm. And they said, "Who is this man that even the waves and the wind obey him?" He is the Jesus that we are going to now in this storm that we are facing. This same Jesus who calmed the winds and the waves will calm you during this time. Brett Allen Miller, 58, died October 8, 2021 in Setanta. He was born on March 9, 1963 in Peoria, Illinois, the son of Larry and Bonnie Miller. Brett worked as an insurance adjuster for over 20 years in central Illinois, mostly adjusting for Lewistown Mutual in Lewistown, Illinois. He moved to Kansas 3 years ago to pursue his dream of being a cowboy. Brett was currently employed by Deseret Cattle Feeders of Setanta. Brett loved his family and his horses and his dogs. He was a handyman and enjoyed working on things around the house and in the yard. Brett loved to watch westerns, especially John Wayne movies. He will be missed by many. Brett is survived by his wife Lynn of Setanta, his father and stepmother Larry and Peggy Miller of Peoria, mother and stepfather Bonnie and Dell Bothman of Kismet, children Austin Miller and wife Taylor of Germantown Hills, Illinois, Brittany Tomic and Mark of Wheeling, Illinois, and Tiffany Hutton and David Barr of Pekin, Illinois. Grandchildren Adeline Miller, Brooks Tomic, and Dante, Nami, and Renton Barr. Sisters Shelley Kirby and Mike of Kismet, and Amy Turner and Dustin of Edmond, Oklahoma. Father-in-law and mother-in-law Ronnie and Doris Simmons of Bluff City, Illinois. Sister-in-law Rhonda Faree and Mark of Havana, Illinois. One niece and 3 nephews. He was preceded in death by his grandparents.
Thank you and good morning.
Good morning.
This is crowd participation before we get started. So let's try that again.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
on behalf of Lynn, children, moms and dads, and aunts and uncles, friends, families, and loved ones here, I just wanna say thank you for your attendance here. We all are very busy. We all have something we could do, but the respect and the honor to show up here for celebration of life for Brett Miller is the reason we're here today. And we're gonna have some tears today before we get out of here. We're gonna have some tears of joy for the celebration of the good times. We're gonna have some tears of hurt and pain and love and missing and grief that Brett's not here with us today. But those tears are also going to be happy for the rejoicing that he got to be with home. He gets to go home before we do. We'll miss him. I want to go back to that's the most beautiful sound in the church today is that child crying here. I just want to start off and say the worst thing you can have in church today is not some babies crying in the front row or the back row. Is that a good sound or what? Huh? That's great. I love it. Thank you. Thank you. Relaxes me a little bit here too, I know, so. But with that spatial honoring of these and did you hear the Spurs? Don't
Yes.
you know Brett was smiling ear to ear when he heard that jingle bell, jingle bell, jingle bell. Thanks guys for your horses, for your honor here, and for the sound of those jingle bell Spurs that represent so much what Brett is today, and that's a cowboy. But just to reflect on that a second, did y'all notice the stirrups or the boots facing backwards in the stirrups? You know what that's reflective of, or representative of? Years and years ago, it started in the military and has been carried upward through the cowboy Western way of life, that it represents a leader who has been lost in battle, and the leading of that horse with the stirrups or with the boots facing backwards is his last look backwards at his troops that fought for him and with him. And it's him telling them goodbye with his boots facing towards them to the back. I just want to make sure that everybody understood that that's not just a happenstance or that was a mistake or whatever, to make sure. So, done very properly, and I appreciate that here. So, I want to start here with talking about what has been a very much compliment, and thank you, Lynn, and thank you, Dusty and Amy and all the family for inviting me to be part of this, because I'm a cowboy. And I'm proud to be a cowboy. Just like Brett is, there's a certain heritage about the Western way of life and what these guys represent and what this big hat represents and the boots. And we'll get into a little bit more of that, but I can relate to cowboys. I love cowboys. So, as we met last night, sometime for the most part of the family, it was a meet and greet on my part. And might add, there was people drove 12, 14, 15 hours to be here with the family, for the family. And the first question I asked one of the family members there last night was Brett a born-again believer? And what do you think that answer was? It wasn't any well, maybe, kinda, I don't. It was a definite yes. Brett knew Jesus. And I said, man, that's gonna make my job so much easier, because I love Jesus too. And cowboys, God loves cowboys too. Sometimes we forget about that and question about that, but God loves Cowboys too. So, that was the beginning of the bright light last night. And, I wanna say thank you. I don't even know the family well enough to know if they've split up and, you know, the mother's side sits over here and the church says that the father. I don't even know if that happens, and I hope it doesn't, because I tell you what, I've seen the love of Jesus last night in this family come together. That is not a day of remorseful and grieving of the death of one of their own, but I asked, and I didn't even have to ask, but it's like, I don't know if Brett was the foundation to bring both sides of this family together and we all love each other, or because you guys all love each other that Brett turned out to be the loving guy that he is. I don't know, it doesn't matter. But I'm telling you what, folks, this is the way God's family acts and reacts and lives. It didn't matter. We had in-laws sitting with outlaws and outlaws sitting with other in-laws, and it's like, she's with him and it's a blended family society that we live in today, and I tell you what, it was beautiful. So thank you guys for being a family that represents the love of Jesus. I wish everybody could experience what I see, and I hope I'm not stepping on toes of divorced and blended families and all that. That's not what I'm here to do. I'm here to say thank you for seeing how it's supposed to work in today's world. It was such a blessing, such a blessing. Everything that I got out of the common denominator last night, visiting, and from the very first phone call that I had from Dusty, was all Brett ever wanted to do was be a cowboy. Huh? You guys recognize that? You know that? Did you recognize that? Huh? All Brett wanted to do was be a cowboy. And so I asked some questions last night. How do you know from what said to you, what represented the fact that he wanted to be a cowboy? And one sister's story was, well, you couldn't go in, I believe it was mom and dad's bedroom when he was a boy growing up, because the whole bed was decorated and spread out with little cowboys and Indians shooting, and the Indians coming over the pillowcase and the cattle coming up, you know, and that was the way it was, and you didn't go in and mess with the cowboys and the Indians on the bedspread. You just didn't do it. So, is that right, Mom? Yeah, right. So, that's cowboy up now, I'm telling you. That right there's cowboy. See? So, that's cool. And, then visiting with Lynn a little bit, she said, well, I can tell it because he loved Marty Robbins. He loved, you can see by the selections of the song, he loved old cowboy. There's none of this, I don't know, Yellow Rose of Texas up here singing rap in his repertoire of listening to country music, you know. So he loved the old time. And we get into listening to a couple songs in a little bit. But I got the biggest hug from a little while ago. The first time we laid eyes on each other here at the church this morning. She says, Randy, I just got to tell you. I got in the church in my car to come out here this morning, turn the radio, and Marty Robbins, Brett's favorite country western singer. Marty Robbins is on the radio singing, "Don't worry, honey, don't worry." She said, that wasn't for Brett, that was for me. But see how the good Lord works right there, huh? Don't worry, Marty Robbins. Google it when you go home tonight. I can see Brett working in Illinois, wearing his cowboy hat, his big belt buckle, and his boots, adjusting for some multimillionaire out of Chicago. You know? Hey, cowboy, what you doing here, huh? What you doing, guy? Chris is here, just, you know. He wasn't embarrassed to be a cowboy. He was proud to be a cowboy. Big old hubcap belt buckle like we all wear going on. Look at this hat now, huh? Is that a cowboy hat? I love it. That's how you tell he's a cowboy. Yeah. One of the most awesome things, truest statement, heartfelt statement I've ever heard doing this was visiting with Larry last night. After I kind of made the rounds, went over to Mr. Humble sitting here, and I said, Larry, you got anything you'd like for me to add or whatever? I said, sounds like old Brett was a pretty good guy. And he said, Randy, I don't think I know one person that could say one negative thing about my son Brett. Now, you mom and dad sitting out there, how many of you can say that? And I don't think there's one person that can say one bad thing about my son and daughter. My dad can't say that. Wish he could. That's love, sir. That's the cowboy way right there. I appreciate you hearing that. The other thing that came out visiting with uncles and in-laws and aunts was he was the most considerate, always the guy to show up to help do anything and do it right. Now that ain't my cowboy way right there, I'll have to admit, that's a special kind of cowboy. I might show up to help, but I do my trim up in the kitchen on the cabinets with a chainsaw, huh? Yeah, that's my perfection, man, with a chainsaw. So to have a cowboy husband that was perfection, doing the things, fixing houses, yard, and I heard that this was the perfect couple. This was the perfect marriage. They agreed in everything they did, whether it's building the house, this door needs to come out, this wall needs to do this, I want to put this colored carpet in here. Everything they did was matched. It was just agreed from day one. How many have ever done that with your wife or husband? No? Can't get my arm up in the air on that one. That's special. That's special. That's cool. And the last thing that talk about here for a minute is his calm demeanor. His calmness. I wish I could have hung around a cowboy with that kind of a calm demeanor. I didn't grow up that way. I mean, we didn't have a bad household, but I've not been around a lot of cowboys when something out of the normal, something adverse happens in the depth of the trenches, working or playing or whatever, and something doesn't go just exactly right. The calmness of the voice of Jesus comes out and says, it'll be okay. Now, don't worry about that. Lynn was sharing a story last night about his favorite dog. What was her name?
Cowgirl.
Cowgirl. Border Collie. His favorite dog. Cowgirl. Border Collie. Anybody ever had Border Collie for a pet dog? Yeah. They're smart enough. I'm here to tell you guys, all of you here, they speak both English and Spanish. Yeah. Guaranteed. They do. They're that smart. They're that smart. You can talk to them over there driving down the road. Yeah. So it's no wonder that Cowgirl was his favorite friend and dog. Lynn said she's busy around, electric car, garage door open, going up and down. I don't remember all the exact details. Cowgirl gets over and lays underneath the front wheel of the vehicle that Lynn's getting ready to either pull forward into the garage, whatever. Here something gets out, and Cowgirl laying there with blood cell phone across the pen that he's riding in and kick the dirt and cuss like a sailor? No. Brett says, it'll be okay, honey. Does she need to go to the vet? Do I need to come home and take her to the vet? She gonna be all right? Yeah, she'll be all right. She's got blood up. It'll be okay. That's special. That's a cowboy I wish I could be. It's hard to do that. I've only got 47 pages of this to go through. I hope lunch can be put on hold here, but, Darcy, do we have a wireless mic we can use? Would you throw that down here like? Okay. Maybe not. Maybe not. Throw that down. We're gonna have what we call an open mic here. I can share a few of these stories that I heard last night, but we're gonna have an open mic to share, to give you a chance to share that spatial memory, that spatial time, that spatial connection that you had with Brett. And I'm asking you, with the fullness of my heart, we want to hear your story. This will be the last time that we gather as this unique divine gathering of individuals right here. It's downstairs?
They're working on it.
Okay. And this place is small enough, if you get up and you need me as an interpreter, I can talk loud enough to keep everybody awake and do all that, but I'd rather hear it in your voice. But I'm asking you, please, to share that sadness, tear of hurt, pain, story for us to grieve a little with, or I'm asking for you to share that. Maybe it's marginal whether I should tell that story in church or not, but go ahead and do it. And let us hear that and enjoy it. Who's got a big deep voice that would love to start? And be numero uno here, kind of get this ball rolling, please.
I will.
All right. Let's give her a big hand. Yeah, very good.
I'm Brett's mother-in-law, and I just want to say, Brett loved to eat. I love to cook. And, for birthdays, I fix whatever my family likes, and they tell me what they want, and I cook it. But Brett's always the one that's still sitting there eating when everybody else is done, and, he's just a wonderful person.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next. Come on, folks. Come on. Please,
I will.
come on.
He had a mischievous side when he was younger, and his two sisters at home, and he always liked to give them a rough time. And his biggest thing that he loved to do was to chase them up and down stairs with a yardstick. But there's so many fond memories that we have. It's just too many to even think to be told. Mike Barnes is one of his best buddies back home, and they have a lot of stories too. They took a hog trip with a load of hogs and kind of disappeared for a day. No cell phones back then, and we didn't know where they were, but finally they come around and all was well. So, but yeah, he had a lot of humor, and he was just a super sweet kid. And like all the things you said, he's just great. He's always happy-go-lucky and positive. So.
And when he come home at night or whatever, you could hear him trip up the steps.
Strip up.
Yeah, that's so true.
He never failed. He tripped up the steps.
All right, next. Appreciate that, Mom. Right here.
Great opportunity to be in Marlboro, man. Every morning at 4 o'clock in the morning, you get in the truck with a stinking toothpick sticking out. I don't get it. 4:30 in the morning, I don't understand why. I just don't,
The Cowboy way.
Yes, I figured you should be Marlboro. You know, and then you came and lived, Shelley and I, when we first moved into this country for, a couple months, and he brought Patches, his dog, and he said, you know, she's bred, and she'll probably have some company, but we'll probably, well, I don't know, we're probably a month away anyhow. And we went to Amarillo to a barrel race, and we came home, and the next day we had 10 dogs.
Time doesn't mean much to a cowboy. Next, please. There we go. Uh-oh, this is the guy, folks, that, said, let him get started, we may be here for a while.
I won't.
Introduce
I won't be
yourself,
long.
introduce yourself.
My name's Mike Barnes. I, met Brett when we were in 6th grade back in Illinois. When, I don't know where you guys even moved from, but I remember him coming into, when him and the two girls, come into Logan School for the first day. We grew up together, went, through grade school together, high school, dated girls together, got the 4-wheel drive pickups together. We did it all. We literally did it all. We lived a mile and a half away. Bonnie was like a second mom to me. She should have spanked me a lot, probably. But
Yep, that's what I heard too.
But you're right, Brett was the calm one. We'd go to Brett's dad's, Peggy's, and, you know, Brett was always, he was the calm. I mean, we were talking of all the stupid, crazy things we've done, Bonnie.
We didn't know him and we didn't wanna know him.
Yeah, but Brett and I, we never fought. We just never ever fought. I never threw a punch at you, and he never threw a punch at me. There were times he just aggravated the snot out of me when we got older, but I don't know, we did everything together, and there's a lot of times that we probably could have got crossways, but he never did. And I think that's because of Brett's demeanor, just the way Brett is, you know. But yeah, talk about wanting to be a cowboy. I remember when I first met him, he came into school, you know, and I showed horses. We lived in a small little community town. We grew up with 4 or 5 of us guys that went to the same school all through high school and everything. And they were farmers, but Brett and I, we showed horses. My family showed horses, and Bonnie and Brett and the kids, they showed horses, and Dale was in the racehorse business, and so we just connected right away. Our families did. You know, so we were probably the oddball boys in school because we had horses, you know. But speaking of him wanting to be a cowboy, you know, it sure was, because the first time I ever met, I mean, when we met, we connected right away. And I remember going over to your house, going over to that trailer right behind Delmer's there where you guys lived, and he walked into his bedroom, and he's a Dallas Cowboys fan. Everything was Dallas Cowboys. He was a clean freak. His bed was always made. Mine wasn't. He'd get up in the morning, he would make it. His pickups were clean. He had to wash and wax them all the time. And I wasn't. We were just total opposite. But a couple, talk about wanting to be a cowboy, we were in 4-H together as well. We had 4-H meetings up at Delmer's. And I remember he didn't go to school one day. He was sick. It was the night of the 4-H meeting. And we go to the 4-H meeting. It was a cool evening. Brett was still in the house, and Shelley and Amy was in the 4-H meeting, and I walked in the house and wanted to see how he was doing. He was all right. I think he skipped school, to be honest with you. I said, well, let's go to the meeting. He said, no. He said, he goes, let's go out here and ride this pony. You had a little pony out there. I don't remember its name. I think he got it for the girl. I don't know. But this pony was out in the pasture. No, you know, I mean, it was dark. He said, let's ride this pony. And I said, are we gonna put a saddle on it? I said, no, so we're gonna jump on it early. I said, well, I don't have a bridle or nothing. He goes, no, he goes, she broke. She just had a hard on. He said he put a lead strap on her and said, we'll be all right. We jumped on that pony, both of us together. And I don't know what happened after that, to be honest, but that pony took off across that pasture. And we fell off, or that pony bucked us off, one of the two. We bumped heads, we come back in, we were muddy, just covered with mud, and you know how moms are, they catch us at the wrong, we were headed in to get cleaned up, and Bonnie was coming out, and she caught us. And, what in the world you gotta do? But anyhow, yeah, he wanted to be a cowboy, really bad. There's been another time, I mean, just the stories could go on and on and on, you know, in the winter time when we weren't showing, he was trapped, he wanted to trap. Him and we ran trap lines. Every year, I wanted to take a year off, Brett said no. We trapped, and we ran those trap lines every morning and night. He had his trap line, I had my trap line, but we set them all together. We did that every fall. I remember one year I remembered it now, we caught a darn skunk. And Brett he carried a .22 pistol. I don't know where he got it. I don't know if he got it from Larry, I don't know where he got it, but he carried a .22 pistol with him when we were kids. My dad would let him carry a pistol because he thought I was going to kill myself, but I had a rifle, .22 rifle. That's whatever we got in the trap, so we shot him. And I remember that skunk, and I looked at Brett, and I said, what are we gonna do? Brett said, well, we gotta kill him. Well, I can kill a skunk. Well, I don't need to shoot him. Well, you better make sure you shoot at the right spot. And we shot in the wrong spot, and we got sprayed. And I remember walking back up the lane, and it was, Mom made us strip out in the garage. The stories could go on and on and on. And in the winter, when we weren't showing horses or something like that, we would ride snowmobiles. We had so much fun. Back in Illinois, we used to get a lot of snow back then, and the drifts were bad. We would hit those drifts, and me being who I was, we'd get in it. Brett would always ride behind, and I'd do one of those numbers, and Brett would fall off. He'd go sliding down. He'd just slide for, it seemed like half an hour. We'd just laugh, and carry on. We got the JCs together, remember that? We won all these, we were just two punk kids get joined the JCs. I don't remember we ever joined the JCs. I think we lied to get in there. But we won all the goofy awards the first year we were in it, and awards, it was just crazy times. But, I will, I'll never ever forget him. I know that. And I see that picture up there on that horse. We were always in the show ring. We would show horses. Brett was, this is what Brett wanted to do. Because I look at that picture right now, and I can see Don Perkins, young man, lower his hands. But that's the difference between a cowboy and just a guy that just wants to ride a horse, for a picture. So Brett had come back. My dad was gone for 5 years. And when Brett came back, he said, I'm coming back out, Mike. I'm coming back out. And he did. And I just, last year or two, we missed phone calls here and there. I wish I had the time back to make a better effort to contact him, because we just didn't. We were just busy. That's one thing to take out of this thing is, God dang it. Bonnie and Shelley and Amy and just Dale, just love you guys to death. And my soul, the time just goes by so fast. And but Brett was a truly good friend, and I'll miss him.
Anyone else? Yes, sir. Dustin.
I have a sister, and I'm a brother to her. And when I married into this family, back in 1993, Brett accepted me like a brother. And he's always wanted to live out here. I don't know about my wife, but I drug her out here. Lived in the feed yards for 20 years, and I see all you guys, the lifestyle, the family camaraderie. It's nothing better. I mean, you'll make your family at work is as important or more important than it is at home, because you spend more time with them at work than you do at home. But I don't know, Amy and I purchased our very first 16-foot single wide trailer, 40 acres, and we thought we were living on a fat hog. And Brett wanted to come out, and as Mike said, he came out and he lived with us. He's always wanted to live out here, always wanted to, and he went to work, and I had those good days off, you know, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Worked the rest of the time, just like everybody. You got to put in your time, and the better days off, the longer you've worked there. And Brett would go with me on the weekends. He had weekends off, and he'd go with me. I was working at Hitch at the time, and just ask questions and hang out and just listen and learn. And he always had a dream of riding pins. You know, when life happens, and you know, he moved back to Illinois, and I always knew that he would come back, because this is where he wanted to be. And it's just been a real joy for me to get to know him over the years, and I just like Randy just nailed it. And I don't know how he picks up on all this stuff, but I knew he'd do great. But just his demeanor and his ability to just settle. You know, I'd come into the coon and I'd get my stuff put up, and I'd hot foot it over to Brett and Lynn's house, and we'd just sit there and talk and visit. And we may or may not go out and shoot a coyote or something like that. But you know, it's just, may not have seen him for 2, 3, 4, 6 months, but the minute you see him, he's got that smile on his face, and just so happy and so at peace with everything. And the thing that really hit home with me is Brittany and Austin. They'll remember this day the rest of their life. And what we need to do as a family is continue to tell stories and share how his dad